Hey guys, Jocelyn here with Fantasia Elegance. I hope y'all are doing well and your new year is off to a wonderful start. In this video I'll be showing you how to make this cute little pair of wire-wrapped snowflake earrings. And I did try and design these so that they could go with both of my snowflake designs I have previously done, the pendant one that I made, as well as the snowflake Christmas tree ornament, which could be turned into a pendant. I tried to design these so that they could be matching earrings for either of those designs. Hopefully I succeeded. I would rate this as more of an intermediate level design. It can be kind of tricky to get the bends in the right place to make sure everything is symmetrical and lays properly. So I would recommend, if you haven't done much wire wrapping before, that you start with a different video. I do have many on my channel that are a lot more beginner friendly. But of course I will do my very best to make sure that I explain things clearly and you can have your best chance at success for tackling this. So let's go ahead and jump right in, see what tools and materials you need. I'm just going to be using some chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and flush cutters, and you can check the description section below for the exact brands I'm using and where you can purchase those. So I will be using 22 gauge round dead soft wire for this design, and I will also use some 26 gauge later to attach the crystals, but for now we're just going to start with our 22 gauge. I'll be using bare copper wire that I got from riogrande.com, but you can use whatever you like. So to get started, I'm just going to cut a bunch of lengths of this, so let me get this straightened out, get all the kinks out here. What we're going to do is cut 6 pieces that are 3.5 inches long. And for those of you in metric, that's just over 9 centimeters. So we'll go ahead and cut that. And go ahead and cut 6 total pieces of that. I have cut mine already, so I have them all ready to go right here. What we're going to do is start connecting all of these pieces together at the center. So starting with just 2 of them, I'll set the others aside. I'm going to cross them over each other in kind of an X pattern, so they cross over each other roughly at the center. And if it's not exactly at the center, that's alright, because we do have a little bit more length built in than we need. If you want, you could mark with a Sharpie at the true center, just to make sure, but I'm just going to start twisting these together here. And I'm only twisting with my right hand and stabilizing with my left hand. And if you prefer to use your chain nose pliers to put the twist in instead of your fingers, that might work a little better for you. So I'm going to put in about 2 or 3 little twists right there. And then at this point I'm going to pull out another length of wire. And this one we're going to twist on this other piece, so finding the center of it, laying it over. I'm going to start twisting these 2 together here. There we go. And then taking the left-hand side of that piece we just added, we'll add another one on top of it, again at the center. And we'll twist those 2 together. So basically what we're doing is twisting all 6 of our pieces of wire together so that they all meet at a central point. And if you need to kind of move your tails out of the way to make this a little bit easier, you can. And this is somewhat falling apart on me, so I'm just stabilizing with my left hand as I go, holding everything together. So again, adding another piece here, twisting it in. And then we have just one final piece left to do. So we'll throw that on there and twist our last 2 pieces together. And this one's a little tricky, so I'm going to use my chain nose pliers instead of my fingers. And then what we're going to do is twist our final 2 pieces together, our final piece and our starting piece. So if you can see right here, we want to twist our starting piece and our final piece together as well. So I'll just put 2 little twists in there for them. So it's a little messy, but if we do a few adjustments here, we can see what's going on a bit better. We should have 6 little spokes coming out that are each twisted. Just like that. And then we should have 12 secondary branches coming off. And I want to close up this space in the middle a little bit, so I'm going to add a few more twists in just to tighten that up a bit. Wherever there's some extra space, I'm just going to add a little more twisting action to close that on up. You can leave yours open. It will just affect the final look slightly. You'll have a more open center of your snowflake than you would otherwise. But if you don't mind that, then you could just proceed and skip this tightening up step. And as far as your spokes go, what you want to have is each one running in a straight line with the one opposite of it. So you want 3 sets of straight lines. So here's 1, 2, and 3. So that's how they should be running. Go ahead and pick a spoke to work on first here. It really doesn't matter which one we do, but we're just going to start putting in our little design. So what I'm going to do is take one spoke and work with the 2 wires that branch off of it. I'm just going to start by spreading them out slightly at a little bit of an angle. And then on one of those wires, I'm going to go out maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch from where it originates from the center of that spoke. I'm just going to loop it around on back on itself, and then use my chain nose pliers to crimp that on down so that we have about between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch long little spike coming off of the center now. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, doing my best to make sure that it is symmetrical and the same length as that other one we just made. So bending it all the way over and around, and crimping it down with our chain nose pliers. So you should have something like that now. And then we're just going to take these back up so they're going in a straight line, following the center spoke. So we'll bend one of them back up, and then we'll bend the other one back up, so that we have something like that. And right where they cross over each other, I'm just going to put another twist in, just one. So we'll just swivel those wires on around themselves once, and let me tighten down those little branches we made. Make sure that the wires are lying right next to each other how I want them to. And then we're going to repeat that step, just taking these off at a slight angle to each other, going out a short distance, looping it on back around, crimping it on down, and then doing the same thing on the other side. Crimping it on down, and then taking those wires back, going up. And at this point, instead of twisting them together, what we're going to do is create a way for these to end. So I'm going to take one of them going straight up, the other one's going at a little bit of an angle. Let me get this other wire out of the way so you can see a little bit better. And the one going straight up, I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch up and put in one of those little spikes that's just going straight out from our original kind of spoke coming off from the snowflake. So crimping it back down. And then right where this tail comes back and crosses over the rest of our design, I'm just going to use my micro shear flush cutters to snip just that wire off right there. And I'm going to push that down so that cut end is nestled in that space right there. And then we're going to kind of protect it by wrapping this other wire up and around that spot. So I'm just going to hold it with my tweezer nose pliers, wrapping it around that spot, just like that, and pushing it on down. And then once again, using my micro shear flush cutters, I'm just going to snip that off quite close to the center line there, and take my tweezer nose pliers to push that end on down so there's no loose, scratchy end sticking out. Alright, so you should have something like that. Now go ahead and move to an adjacent spoke, and we're going to do the other style of ending for these spokes, because we're going to be alternating them. So we're going to start out the same way as we did that one, by taking these two wires off, each of the two wires coming off of the spoke. We'll send them off in opposite directions at a slight angle. We'll move out about a little less than 1/4 of an inch, bend them back on themselves, put in little crimps. So there's one, we'll do the one on the other side. And there's two. Bringing them back up towards the center line. And then twisting them again around themselves. But for these, I'm going to put in 2 or 3 twists now instead of just one. So there's one, there's two. Let's go ahead and do one more twist. There's 3 twists. Alright, and once again, taking these wires off at a slight angle. And if you want to, you can see how this is all getting a little wibbly wobbly and how it's lying. I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers to smush this on down and try and keep everything lying more in a horizontal plane with itself. You can do that on the one we've made already too. Just squeezing it on flat. And you are going to have some wiggle and some play in this for now, but don't worry, as we press on, we will tighten things down and it'll be sturdier once we finish our design. But for now, I'm just kind of stabilizing things and holding them together with my left hand as needed. So go ahead and switch to your round nose pliers now. What we're going to do is put in kind of a little 3-leaf clover effect here with these wires. So I'm going to go very low on my tips so we get a very small round shape. I'm going to grip right where those wires diverge from having been twisted together, and I'm going to wrap this all the way around into a tight little circle. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing with the other wire, all the way around, forming a small circle shape. And what you want is for your 2 wires to come back and cross over each other at the center. So let me just refine these shapes slightly with my tweezer nose pliers. So that we have something like that. And then to finish off these 2 ends, what we're going to do is create 2 little loops just like that that lie right over top of each other so that it looks like one loop. So if you can see here, this wire is more towards the back. This one's going over top of it. I'm going to take the one on the back. Using my round nose pliers, I'm going to create a matching 3rd little loop at the top. So wrapping that all the way around. And then if we turn to the back of our design, you can see where that wire is crossing over where it meets that center point. I'm just going to snip off right there so that the cut end of our wire can lie touching the center, kind of the center of where those 3 petals of the clover come together. Alright, so we finished off that end. Going back to the front, I'm going to do the same thing with this wire, shaping it so that it lies directly over top of that one we just shaped. So looping that all the way around. And same thing, I'm just going to snip it off right where it meets that center spot. And then using my tweezer nose pliers, I'm going to push that loose end down so that it's kind of hidden and touching there. And as you can see, it now looks like we just have the one wire from the front. So at this point, it's really rinse and repeat. What we're going to do is alternate going around this spoke design and that spoke design. So if we're moving from left to right, I'm going to come over here and make another of the more kind of spiky looking spoke designs. So as before, taking these wires off at a slight angle, going out a short distance, bringing these back over to create those sharp little points. Do the same thing on the other side. Tightening that on down, pulling them back up towards the center. And then twisting these two wires together just once. So one twist in there. And then we're going to repeat that, again taking them off at an angle, looping back around, crimping it down. Same thing on the other side, looping it back around, crimping it down, and we'll bring one of these ends straight up. And we'll create a final third little point. Like so. Flipping over to the back of our design, I'm just going to snip off that tail right there so that we can hide the end down where that branch comes out. Going back to the front, we'll finish off this other wire end by wrapping it around right there like that. And then pushing it on down, snipping it off very close to that center spot, and then pushing that cut end in and tightening things down so there's no loose pokey end. So we now have 2 out of 3 of these more spiky looking branches. We're going to now make another of this one that ends in the kind of 3-leaf clover design. So remember, this one starts out the same way, taking these off at an angle, putting in a little side branch on each one, and then we will twist these together 2 or 3 times. There's 1, 2, 3. 3 little twists. And now it is time to start forming those little petal shapes. So again, switching over to our round nose pliers, we're going to put a small little loop in first on one side, and then on the other side. And then I will flatten these down with my chain nose pliers, make sure it's all lying flat. And at this point, you do want to make sure that the little loops you're forming are the same shape and size as these on the other branch, just to make sure everything is as symmetrical as possible. And then remember, we will use these 2 tails to create a third ending little loop there. So I'm going to use first one of them to wrap it around, creating an ending little loop. And we'll snip off that end here on the back. And then we'll do the other one on the front. just going right over top of that one we already formed, making sure they are symmetrical so that it looks like a single loop when viewed from the front. And we'll snip that off there and push it on down. So go ahead and do that same thing with these last two spokes that we have. The one that goes right here will be this spikier design, so that we'll have 3 of those. And the one that goes right here will be this design, and we'll have 3 of those, and they will alternate going around, and then we'll come back together and see how to finish these. Alright, so as you can see here, I have finished completing all of our spokes going all the way around our little snowflake. So if you like how this looks now, you could just call it done and go ahead and put ear wires on or a bail if you want to make this into a pendant. But I like to add some little crystals as well, just for a little extra sparkle, a little extra bling. I'm going to be using 3mm Swarovski crystals in just the clear crystal color. You can use different colors if you like to mix it up a little bit, but we will be using 6 of these 3mm bicone crystals. To attach the crystals, I'll be using some 26 gauge wire, and we just need a little length of this. A 5-inch piece should do it. So I'll just measure out 5 inches there, and we'll cut that. And then go ahead and pull out one of your 3mm crystals. We're just going to thread it onto this wire, and we want to go about halfway up on it. So about halfway, right in the middle. And then what we're going to do is just lay this over one of our spaces between the spokes, right near the center there. I'm going to hold that in place with my left hand fingers, so that with my right hand I can just take this right hand tail and wrap it once around that spoke to the right of where we placed our bead. So I'm just going to wrap it around there once, and then I'm going to feed another crystal on the end of it here. And we'll just set that one in the next space by the next spoke. Again, we'll wrap that tail around just once. And I'm going to use my chain nose pliers to tighten that up a little bit. Then we'll place another crystal on this tail. Again, setting it in that next space, working our way around. I'll again wrap that tail around the next spoke that we have. Going to tighten it down a little bit once more. Feeding another one on. There we go. And wrapping it around the next spoke. And at this point I'm going to bind off this wire, and we'll continue going the other direction with that other tail. So I'm just going to wrap it around to the back of our spoke here. And using my flush cutters, I'm just going to trim that off and then push it on down nice and tight against the spoke so there's nothing loose sticking out to catch on anything. And let's transition over to this other tail that we have. I'm going to wrap it around right here to secure that other side of the first bead we placed, and then feeding another crystal on so that we can have it sit in this other space, working our way on around. I will wrap that around, and for our final bead and our final space, we will just feed that on there. And then to finish this off, I'm going to wrap it twice around that spoke right there. Flipping over to the back, we can snip that off with our flush cutters and push that end on down as well. So go ahead and make sure everything is lying how you want it. Things are in order and looking symmetrical, how you like. You can also at this point decide which way you want to be right side up, depending on little slight variations you have in the length of your spokes or whatever. Different directions. Being right side up might look slightly better than others. You do want to pick an up direction to be one of these that ends in the little loops so that we can use that loop to hang an ear wire or a bail on. So go ahead and pull out your favorite pair of ear wires, your favorite style. I do have some different tutorials on different styles of ear wires. If you want to make them yourself, you can check those out on my channel. Basically, we're just going to slide it through both of those little loops at the top and close our ear wire on up. And there you have your little snowflake earring. And of course, you would make a second one just the same as this to get a pair. You do want to be careful as you're making the second one that you compare it to the first one at each step to make sure that they are going to wind up symmetrical and the same size. So before each bend, I would just lay it over top of the first one and double check my distances to make sure I am putting that bend in the right spot. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, found it helpful and easy to follow. Let me know if you make these and how they turn out for you in the comments section below. If you want to see more videos like this, I do have many more planned. Go ahead and make sure you are subscribed, and also click that little notification bell and select to receive all notifications. YouTube will just send you an email anytime I post a new video to make sure that you don't miss out on seeing that. So I hope you guys are staying safe and well, and your new year is off to a great start. I will see you in the next video. Happy crafting!